Welcome to Lesson 6.2, Solving Multi-Step Linear Inequalities for Algebra 1. Now in 6.1, we looked at solving one-step linear inequalities. The process today is still almost exactly the same, now just adding an additional step or couple steps, in which case we still have the goal to isolate the variable by working the order of operations backward. That means instead of using GEMDAS, remember grouping symbols took the place of parentheses, it would become SADMAG. So we're undoing the order of operations by working it backward. Then, in example 1, after we solve, they'd like us to graph the solution on a number line, just like in 6.1. If it's purely less than or greater than, you use an open circle. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you use a filled in circle. So looking at example 1, part A, we have 2 times y minus 5 is less than 7. Now again, on all of these, I put a line through the inequality to stay organized. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other. So in this case, we want to undo subtraction of 5, which means our first step is to add 5 to each side. The negative 5 and positive 5 cancel out, so we have 2y is less than 12. Then, to undo the multiplication, we have to divide both sides by 2. So 2y divided by 2 is 1y, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So our answer is y is less than 6, meaning open circle at 6, and going to the less than, which would be the left. For part B, they flipped the order on us, so now we have 5 minus x is less than 4. So we want to do the opposite still and get the 5 back to 0. So to get the positive 5 back to 0, we would subtract 5 from each side. We then have the opposite of x, or a negative 1x, is less than negative 1. So what we need to do to get x alone is divide both sides by a negative 1. This causes the inequality symbol to flip because we're multiplying or dividing by a negative. So x is greater than 1. That means we have an open circle at 1 and the arrow going to the right for greater than. In part C, we have a fraction of 2/3 multiplied by x minus 8 is greater than or equal to negative 4. So we have multiplication and subtraction. I need to undo subtraction first, so I'm going to add 8 to each side. A negative 4 plus 8 is a positive 4, so we have 2/3 times x is greater than or equal to 4. Then we need to divide both sides by 2/3. 4 divided by 2/3 is 6. So x is greater than or equal to 6, meaning a filled in circle at 6 and the arrow going to the greater than. In D, we have 3 times n minus 2 is greater than 7 times n minus 10. So now you'll see they started with the variable on both sides of the inequality. So what we eventually need to do is get the variable to one side, and we also need to get our numbers, or the constant, to the other side. So what I'm starting with in this case is I want to start to get my 7n alone, so I'm adding 10 to each side. So 3n minus 2, negative 2 plus 10 becomes 3n plus 8, is greater than 7n. Then, to undo the addition, I can subtract 3n from each side. I'm left with 8 is greater than 4 times n. Divide both sides by 4, and 2 is greater than n, which means n is less than 2. So we have an open circle, arrow going to the less than. Now in E, we first have to deal with the distributive property due to the parentheses here on the left. So the first thing I'm going to do in E is distribute the -2 times x and the -2 times the +4. That gives me -2x minus 8 is less than or equal to 6x minus 4. Then I want to get my variable to one side. So I'm going to undo this -2x by adding 2x. Add 2x to the other side. 6x plus 2x is 8x. So we have a -8 is less than or equal to 8x minus 4. The next step is to add the 4 to each side to undo subtraction. So then -8 plus 4 is a -4 is less than or equal to 8x. And the last step is to divide both sides by 8. -4 divided by 8 is a -1/2, which is less than or equal to x. Now, going through this example, what I ended up doing was making a mistake on the arrow here. So in this case, the arrow should not be going to the left. What we would want to consider, so I'll use a different color here. In this case, because it's written backwards, this is a -1/2 is less than or equal to x. So x is greater than or equal to a -1/2. So we should still have a filled in dot, but the arrow should be coming to the right, not to the left on that one. And last but not least, we have f here. So f, we have 7w minus 2. Don't have to do anything on that side to start. On the right, we have to use the distributive property, -3 times w, -3 times a -2. So 7w minus 2 is less than or equal to a -3w plus 6. Get our variable to one side, so to undo the -3w, add 3w to both sides. 10w minus 2 is less than or equal to 6. Undo subtraction by adding 2. 10w is less than or equal to 8. Divide both sides by 10, so w is less than or equal to 8/10, which simplifies to 4/5. So I have a filled in circle at 4/5, and w is anything less than that. And the last part are word problems. So example 2 says Jane is trying to save up for a new bike. She decides to sell bracelets to make money. Each bracelet costs 25 cents to make, and she will be selling them for $1 each. If she wants to make at least $180, how many bracelets must she sell? So what I'm thinking is the selling price per item minus my material cost per item has to be greater than or equal to the cost of the bike. So $1 per bracelet, $1 times x, minus 25 cents times x is greater than or equal to 180. $1 minus 25 cents is 0.75x. Then to undo the multiplication, we need to divide both sides by 0.75. So in this case, x is greater than or equal to 240, meaning she must sell at least 240 bracelets to make the $180 or more to purchase the bike.